All right, what's up? What is your boy Expat D here? I'm here to answer the question: which one? Which one should you pick between Mombasa or Nairobi? Okay, now I mean people argue this like we're talking about Jordan versus LeBron. You know, it's not a simple question to answer, but I got a chance to go to both. I've been to both more than once, and I do have a favorite between the two. And I'll tell you a little bit about it. And I'll tell you one thing. It was one factor that made me choose one over the other. Okay, but let's break this down. Okay, so I'll tell you some of the observations that I had from Nairobi and some of the observations that I had from Mombasa. Okay, first thing, I guess I'd like to start with Mombasa. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to Mombasa, if you're someone that likes more of like your Thailand, okay, if you like kind of like that Thailand vibe, if you've been there, when I mean by Thailand, I mean more of like your beach area Thailand, then you would like Mombasa, okay, even down to the tuk-tuks, okay, they have tuk-tuks there. Some of the observations that I saw, it's a little bit, they call it in Swahili poli poli, so it's a little bit slower, okay, the vibe. So if you're someone that has more patience, let's say you go to something like this, you go to a restaurant and there's hardly anybody at the restaurant. So you're thinking like, okay, it's hardly anybody there. So you're probably gonna get your food faster. Doesn't matter, still gonna take like 40 minutes. So it takes a lot more patience when you're in Mombasa. Another thing that you'll find in Mombasa, kind of like your comparison, I found that when I rented apartments or like, well, let's say Airbnbs, it was a little bit cheaper. In Mombasa, I got a pretty big deal. I would say this, you got a little bit more space in Mombasa than what I saw in Nairobi. Now I've got some spacious, some stuff that has some more space in Nairobi, but I found the deal to be a little bit, at least the places I went to, a little bit better in Mombasa. Continuing with that, of course, the biggest issue I would say, comparing the two would definitely be the weather. So, and that's a catch-22. Some people, like if you're visiting, you may want hot weather. And my issue with the hot weather, it has to do with, okay, I've lived in a lot of hot places. Okay, I've lived in California, I've lived in Las Vegas, I've lived in the Middle East. So these are some of the hottest places. But it really has to do with, in those other places, you're kind of going from like AC to AC. You might be at home, you're in the AC, you get in your car, there's AC, and then you go to like the mall or wherever you go, grocery store, wherever you're going to, more AC. So the fact that they don't have air conditioning, this really, you can feel it more. So I found myself like constantly sweating more. I got sunburned pretty bad out there. So that's something to consider, the climate. Now, some other things about Mombasa. Mombasa is, I found the people to be a little bit more friendly. Of course, there's beaches and there's not beaches in Nairobi. However, the downside that I found about going to the beaches, it was that, going there, I went there by myself. And so the beaches were just like, I'm talking about just kind of getting mobbed, like with, people following you, trying to sell stuff. So that got to a point where I really didn't even want to go to the beach because I didn't want someone like almost sprinting and, following me for like half a mile, trying to get me to buy something and stuff like that. That's something where I found that more so in Mombasa. But that being said, the people there were more friendly, I would say. And then also there's a little bit more tourist things to do in Mombasa. Now, on the flip side, when you look at Nairobi, as far as like the infrastructure, it looks more modern in Nairobi. The weather is better. You'll find more like, malls, restaurants. You'll find just more variety in Nairobi. And so that's something to consider between the both. So if that's, and then in terms of like taxis were faster. Now, here's a difference that I found in the taxis. What I found the difference between taxis in Mombasa and taxis in Nairobi is the taxis were faster to come in Nairobi. And one issue that I saw this reminded me of Turkey. One issue that I saw about Mombasa was that, I use Uber, and I found the drivers would be like, they would ask the question, how much is it? How much is a ride? And like, for example, some person came and they were like, how you pick Uber? And I just picked like the cheapest vehicle. And then I guess the vehicle that they came with was like a little bit, I don't know, better or a little bit bigger than normal. And they're like, yeah, this is not the vehicle that you ordered. I'm like, dude, I'm thinking to myself, like, so like that's not my problem. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't like specifically choose your vehicle. I just chose whoever the next rider was. So he's like trying to argue that I need to pay him more and all this stuff. And, so I found that's similar to Turkey. Like, if you ever gone to Turkey and you take a taxi, even though Uber or whatever the app, I forget which app it was in Turkey, like they would tell you, like they would try to like pick you up, cancel the ride, get you to agree to a different amount. And so that's kind of how it was there. Even though you're using Uber, they kept like trying to find like ways of like arguing with the price. And I'm like, dude, that's not how Uber works, man. So that's something that I found in Nairobi that, I found the taxi drivers trying to kind of get funny with the pricing. I found that more so in Mombasa. I didn't really find that in Nairobi. I didn't. Not really. So that's just something to consider between both. But here's the thing. To me, if I looked at one factor, like if Mombasa were, I'm going to talk Fahrenheit. If Mombasa was about, I'd say 20 degrees cooler, that might be one of my favorite places. But the weather, how hot it was such a deal breaker to the point where I just couldn't do it. Between like getting just like mobbed by mosquitoes, and I got mosquito bites everywhere, and the heat. I mean, I'm just like drenched with sweat, sunburn, all that stuff. It was such a deal breaker that that alone made me choose Nairobi over Mombasa. But that being said, I don't know, like Mombasa, I almost feel like if you take the weather element away, I might have chose Mombasa more than Nairobi. So I found the one factor separating the two would be the weather. Yeah, but you guys let me know. Have you traveled to Mombasa and Nairobi? Are you considering going to both? Definitely, if you get a chance to go to both, definitely check it out. I posted some other videos here just talking about the experience, a guide of when you go to the airport and what to expect. So yeah, definitely check it out. If you're thinking about it, don't skip out. I think the first time I came to Kenya, I went to Mombasa and I did not go to Nairobi at all. And the next time I went to Nairobi a couple of times, I didn't go to Mombasa. If you have a chance to check out both, definitely check out both. Anyway, I'm Expat D here. Thanks a lot. Like, share, subscribe. Let's get the channel to grow. And I'm going to end things here. Peace and I'm out.